Good morning again. My name is Diego Uriburu, and I'm the proud Executive Director of Identity, which is a nonprofit that focuses on Latino youth and families here in Montgomery County. We really appreciate you joining us today. It's great that you chose to be with us this morning. After a lot of research, deliberation, and community engagement, Montgomery, moving forward, chose to focus its attention on early care and education for our county's youngest children. By youngest children, we mean young people 0 to 5. And when we talk about early care and education, we're not just talking about quality childcare, but also these young people's ability to enter kindergarten ready to learn. We have taken up on early childhood education for several reasons. For me, it's about leveling the playing field. If our children are to have a fair chance, a fair shot at economic opportunity, they must start kindergarten ready to learn. It is disheartening for me to see every day young people and families, sometimes multiple generations of families, whose futures have been cut short because they were not able to seize the wonderful educational opportunities that Montgomery County has to offer. Think about this. Between 60 and 70% of the young people that are in ESOL today were born in the United States. I'll repeat, 60 to 70% of the young people who are in ESOL today were born in this country. So when they got into the school system, they were not ready to enter regular classes, to take regular classes. We can fix that. We know that education holds the power to change the trajectory of a family, not just of an individual, but of a family. Education is a key, a conduit to economic opportunity. And if a student is going to be successful in his or her education and beyond, they need to be ready to learn when they get into kindergarten. If they are not, then they keep falling behind, and it's very difficult and sometimes impossible to catch up. Poverty remains the biggest barrier to quality education and economic success. For me, for the people that work with me at Identity, and for my colleagues in MMF, it is clear that our community must come together across sectors to solve this challenge. How can we best work together to ensure that every young child who comes to MCPS, regardless if they go to an elementary school in Potomac or they attend the poorest elementary school in Silver Spring or Gettysburg, is ready to learn? How can we achieve this? Research shows that more Montgomery County families will be transformed if we ensure that all these children are ready to learn when they get to kindergarten. I firmly believe that the economic future of Montgomery County depends on that. So today, before we start with the program, I want to acknowledge a few people. But first, I want to explain to some of you who don't know what MMF is, who we are and what we do. We're a group of veteran and emerging leaders. We leverage the collective impact model to address complex community problems. And we're committed to the goal of economic opportunity for all to ensure a thriving Montgomery County. We also believe our solutions must be systems-based and involve every sector of our community in order to succeed. I would like to have all the MMF members of the leadership team to please stand up and be acknowledged. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge the staff and board members of Nonprofit Montgomery. Lots of M's and N's and M's. Okay. So, acknowledge the staff and board members of nonprofit Montgomery. If you're here, please stand up. So, nonprofit Montgomery spearheaded the creation of MMF 5 years ago and is the organization that provides backbone support to ensure that MMF can do what it needs to do. MMF is not a service organization. Okay, we don't do things. We just get together and talk. We are a vehicle for change. I just want to clarify that. So with that, I pass it to Mike.
My name is Mike Knapp, and I'm also a member of the MMF Leadership Group, and by day I am CEO of SkillSmart and spend most of my waking hours thinking about how we close the skills gap. Creating a ready workforce, fueling our economy with workers ready to lead, innovate, create, and take our community forward is what we spend our time doing. And it's interesting because I think the workforce issue and the issue we're talking about today only becomes more relevant as the minutes go by. This past September, for the first time, the two kind of local economists that we all refer to, Stephen Fuller and Anna Basu, were quoted in an article in the Washington Post as saying that people aren't coming to most metropolitan areas, but in particular the DC metropolitan area, to take jobs in the ways that they once did. And that has some really interesting ramifications because we've never had a problem posting positions and getting people because everybody wanted to be here. And now we actually have to start thinking about how we grow the talent locally. Well, growing the talent locally isn't going to be a matter of just turning on a switch and hoping that we get a bunch of folks that show out the other side that can fill our workforce. It's going to be taking a long-term strategic view to look at who are our children today, our young children, and make sure that they're on our trajectory so that they can be successful and ultimately our economy can be successful as they age. And that's the reason I'm committed to MMF, because I know that despite the work that I do and the work that all of you do, we cannot create a dynamic economy alone. We must work together across industry sectors with the nonprofit community, residents, business leaders, labor leaders, and philanthropists to move Montgomery forward. As Diego said, we asked our community what worries them. We asked you. And many of you said early care and education for our young children. Why? Some interests, as Diego noted, centered on the importance of leveling the playing field. Others noted or made a direct connection to the workforce, both the workforce of today and of tomorrow. Our initial dive into the data tells us that young children who are ready to learn at kindergarten are more likely to succeed through secondary and post-secondary education, and thus be ready to fuel the economy of the future. But we also know that their parents, with access to high quality and affordable care for their children, are more likely to be productive workers, because that's one less thing they have to worry about, and thereby fueling our local economy today. That's why our working definition, as Diego talked about, says we need a system that enables employees to be ready to work today and prepares the workforce for tomorrow. Let me encourage you to look at your program materials and see the specifics of our working definition. That said, now you know why I'm here. It's going to be an exciting morning, and we thank you very much again for taking the time. We're going to hear from an array of speakers that are going to help us learn more about the need, not just for quality child care, but early learning and its impact on our economy. The economic imperative for ensuring our children can start smart. We're very excited to have with us, for example, Mike Chesser, former CEO, to talk to us about workforce connection and early learning. But to Diego's point, if we talk, and that's all we do, which is not a bad start, but that's not going to accomplish a whole lot. So we need to be prepared to take a series of action steps, steps that will lead us ultimately to a call for action for our entire community. You'll hear more about the call to action moving forward, and this symposium and subsequent work will help inform that. But our call to action will be a call for innovative change, change that's meant to deliver a robust system of early care and education for our youngest children. Together, we can make something happen to move Montgomery forward. As a first step to preparing the call to action, check out your agenda and some of the program materials and our initial action steps, some big, some small, that will advance our work. We're actually going to have an ask at the end of this. We have a number of business leaders who said, it's great, I'm happy to spend some time and I want to come hear what we're talking about, but what's the ask? What am I there for? This green sheet that you'll find at your place identifies a series of activities that we need your participation in. And so I bring that to your attention now to take a look at, because we're going to ask you to fill that out before we conclude this afternoon, or conclude this morning. My next action step is to thank many of the sponsors that we have with us today. So on behalf of MMF, I want to thank Bank of America, Kaiser Permanente, and Discovery Communications because of their gifts of time, talent, and space, we were able to organize and present this symposium with all of your participation. There are other generous supporters as well who are noted in the program materials, and we thank them very, very much. We also have numerous elected officials with us today, and I want to ask them all to stand and be recognized. And I would love to run through the list, but I think there are about 22 of you, and that's going to take a little bit. So please, any of our elected officials, please stand so we can make sure that we acknowledge your presence. Thank you very much for your participation and hopefully continued participation moving forward. Of course, I must note that given we are focused on early care and education, we are joined by the three leaders of our educational system. So I also would welcome Dr. Edelstein, Dr. Pollard, and Dr. Smith and thank them for their participation this morning. Now, let me ask you to take your first action step right now and throughout the program. Help us let our community know that we're talking about the future of our county. We have lots of ways to use social media right now, so you can tweet it, you can Snapchat it, you can Instagram it, but please do one of them.